Now, if you folks have any questions or anything you want to talk to me about before we start the session, we can discuss about it right now. So this is a good time. So I have posted few comments, and if you have access to it, if you can read it, I'm trying to basically let you guys know how we're going to be running this course. And this is basically going to be an online course. And my name is Irfan. Spelled as IRFAN, and I will be your trainer, and we will be meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays between the hours of 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be running this course for 4 weeks. As you can see right here, all of our online courses that are instructor-led, we meet for 4 weeks. There are going to be 2 sessions per week, and each session, as you can see, is going to be like a 2-hour long, so total of 8 sessions. And along with this, we're going to be giving you about 40 to 60 hours of videos. These videos are a lot of content or material that we have covered, and we try to cover different things in different batches. So we will be giving you some videos from the previous batches, and also some of the videos that we call it as a must-watch section. And in the must-watch section, we try to justify by covering certain topics. We give it more time and more focus because in the online sessions, because of the limited time we have, and because of the nature of students asking questions and talking about stuff that occasionally takes away some of the time. So that's why we try to focus a little bit more in detail with what is called as a must-watch section of the videos. So all in all, you're going to get about 40 to 60 hours of videos. Okay, now how this training is going to help you? Well, I have to, first of all, this is the disclaimer. We have people attending this course with different backgrounds. So you might be an automated tester who have got about 8 to 10 years of real experience, or you might just be starting. So since we have a diversified audience, and so it's going to be a little bit challenging for the instructor to balance and try to give something that is interesting for all of you. So we do our best, and we have been doing these trainings for a little over 18 years. I mean, I have taught at different universities. I've taught at different business colleges, and lately I'm doing a lot of online training. So I've been doing it for quite some time. So I can tell you upfront, in those 8 sessions, there will be a time when each one of you would get a little bit restless. Now, you would say that, how so? Now, again, depending on who you are. So let's say if you are a seasoned tester, meaning that a very experienced person who have got about 8 to 10 years of experience under your belt, then you would find day 1 a little bit dry, meaning that uninteresting, because I'm trying to lay out the plot on day 1. I'm trying to make sure that you understand what you're getting into. So there will be times you would sort of like it's going to be like itching, like when are we going to be starting the real stuff? So but again, for those of you folks who are, let's say, starting your career, and this happens to be like the second or the third tool that you're learning in, you would be paying a lot of attention in the first few sessions, because everything will make sense, and it is very inspiring, and you really want to get into it. But again, once it starts to get a little deeper, you guys have to put in a little more effort. You have to invest yourself seriously, because it's not going to be, easy stuff all along. The first, couple of days, it's going to be, easy and all that. But then once, starting from day 3, day 4 onwards, we're going to be covering topics not for the sake of killing time or to make you feel good or happy. That's a part of the objective or the goal, but it's not the total goal of us. So our goal here is basically to learn core skills, the skills that is going to make you marketable, right? Now, chances are you already have a job, and you might be getting into SoapUI, and you have to work on that project, so you have to know how to do things. Oh, very good. I mean, I can tell you, take it from me. You would fast forward 4 weeks, and let's say when you get out of this course, this is my guarantee to you, right? You're going to shine like a star. You will be a wanted person in your company. Everybody is going to go around you like asking you, well, how can we do this? How can we do that? Because you're going to be that expert. And that is my guarantee to you that you would be learning that stuff. I can 100% guarantee you that. Provided, here is the but, you have to do your part in this. So it's more like like a contract we have. I mean, it's not that you have paid us, so it's totally our job to make sure that you get it. It's a handshake. I mean, both the parties have to involve ourselves. I can tell you from my side, I'm going to give you more than 100%, right? But it has to come from your side. So if you promise me that for the next 4 weeks, right, you're going to be giving me, let's say, an hour a day, right? It need not be like every day you have to sit for an hour, but on an average, it's like 4 to 5 hours a week. So we have like 4 weeks. So we're talking about like 20 hours. If you dedicate yourself, if you intimately involve and try to put in all your efforts to love what you're doing in here, then I can guarantee you that there is no looking back, right? Now, the question is, what are we going to be learning in this course? Now, the idea here is, again, to make you, to bring you up to a certain level that you are highly marketable. Marketable from what perspective? Well, if you go to dice.com and if you look at the jobs that are available in SoapUI, all over the country, there are tremendous number of opportunities. This is the time for the web service testing. You would find that there are hundreds of jobs. I mean, the many jobs that that go unfulfilled because they don't find good amount of people, right? And don't worry about the money. If you are a newcomer, just learn it good. Now, if you again are an experienced person, trust me, you are going to be making, depending on what part of the country you would be applying for. Let's say if you're going to be in California, I would not be surprised if you're going to be making about $55, $60, $65 per hour, because that's what they pay for the SoapUI specialists who know, pretty much anything that is needed for you to do web service testing. Now, will this 4 weeks be enough for you to learn it? Again, if you promise that you're going to be giving me those, 5 hours or 6 hours a week, then I promise you that you would be making that kind of money, right? Again, if you are living in Montana, then chances are you might not be making $60 an hour. But if you're living in New York, Boston, or happening cities, then expect that kind of money. Now you would say that, well, I already make $60 an hour. Then I would say that, well, probably you would be making a little bit more. And I have my students who are even making up to like $75 an hour. Now you would say that probably not, money is not the major issue right now. I want to learn and I want to know, this, in a good way so that I could make it as my career and then I could move up on the ladder. You have come exactly to the right place, because if you go and look into the contents of the course, that's what we try to do. Again, it is going to be a serious investment of your time, right? I want you to, think twice before you get into this course. If you don't have time, if you have other things to do in your life, then don't get into it half-heartedly, right? I mean, I probably would be shooting myself into my foot from a business perspective, asking you not to enroll into the course, but your $300-400 is, definitely something, we don't want to lose, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world for our business, because the goal, the objective here is we want a student who is committed, right, who wants to make it happen. So don't take it because you want to just take it. Take it to learn it and put it to use, right? So what are we going to be learning? Now, everything that you see in here, every little bullet, right, whatever you see here is going to be covered as a part of this course, right? So we have some real advanced topics that we would be getting into when we get into, like, let's say, day 5, day 6 onwards, real advanced topics. Now, usually, if you have taken any automation course in your previous life, then you know that they try to do frameworks that is, let's say, how can we put it, like a data-driven framework, usually kind of like comes like at the tail end of the course, because that is something huge, something big. Oh, I am learning to develop framework. So you can see how people would pay attention to it like something big, right? Guess what? You would be learning as how to build a framework probably in the 3rd class, right? If not in the 2nd class, but in the 3rd class. So by 3rd class, you would be getting into some serious stuff, right? So the idea here is not to make it too difficult for you, but at the same time, I cannot make it, so simple that at the end of this course, it has no value at all. So it has to be valuable. It has to be justified. So again, now you would say that what kind of background do you think I should have in order to get into this course, right? That could be that's a valid question. Now here is the answer to that. Now, of course, we will be doing some programming in this course, right? So you would say that, I know nothing about programming. Here is the problem, because I'm just a manual tester. I have not done any programming. And what kind of programming are you going to be teaching me? I see something like Groovy in here. What the heck is that? Is it going to be very difficult for me to understand because I have never touched programming? Well, nothing is so difficult that you cannot do it, right? Now, if you have done any programming again in your previous life, that could be 10 years ago when you were in college, or that could be like 2 years back when you had taken a different course, or any time in your life, if you have done any programming, well, then don't worry about it, because we pretty much going to be doing the same in here, like talking about what? Talking about variables, because variables are used in programming. What else are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about, let's say, arrays. What are arrays? So now you would say that I heard about it many years ago when I was in college. I did something like that. I don't remember anything. Well, that's the reason you're here. I mean, that's the reason you're paying to learn those things. So when it comes to programming, we'll be learning about variables. We'll be learning about arrays. We'll be learning about functions, how to write functions. And trust me, after the end of this session, if you find that in the next 2 hours that we're going to be here, if you find that there are times when you were not able to understand something, right, then you would say that probably it's going to be a little bit difficult. Meaning, I am going to put myself upside down to make sure that I make you understand these things, right? It is going to be a partnership. Next 4 weeks, we are going to be partners. I'm going to be doing anything and everything to make sure that you learn it. Right? Now you would say that, how are you going to do it? I mean, you are sitting somewhere in New York, New Jersey, and I am here in California, and I am here in Chicago, wherever. How are you going to do it? Well, at the end of every session, we're going to be giving you assignments, right? I'm going to be giving you assignments. They're going to be like pop quizzes, right? Not to put you down, right? I mean, you are here to learn. I mean, I don't expect you to know anything and everything, right? So, but the goal here is to learn. Are we learning at the end of every session? So by end of today's session, you should be knowing good amount of stuff of SoapUI, meaning that when you come to a session and when you get out of a session, your 2 hours of investment of your time, that is highly respected by me. So I have to make sure that I respect your time and I give you something at the end of the course. You should be much more smarter, right? SoapUI wise. I mean, you already are a smart guy, I know, a smart girl, I know, but the content which is SoapUI wise, you will be much more smarter when you get out of a session compared to when you got into the session. Meaning that at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, you would be knowing a little bit more than what you know about SoapUI. Probably at this time you know a little bit about SoapUI, or you are not even, you don't even have an idea of how to even pronounce that SoapUI, right? Some of you might be saying SoapUI or Soap whatever, right? So it is SoapUI, as in SOAP stands for something, so I'm going to be talking about that. So why don't we have talked a little bit here, so why don't we get started and see what we want to do. Okay, while I am talking, that doesn't mean that you have to keep quiet, right? You can interact with me anytime because it's an interactive session. Otherwise, you would have just watched a video, and watching a video, this session is being recorded right now. So if you need to watch it again, you can watch it anytime, while you are a student, and you can watch it any number of times. You can watch it. But the difference between watching a video and being here is you can ask a question. So of course, I want you to ask a question. Now you would say that, how am I going to ask you a question when you have muted me? Well, the reason I have muted you all, because there are like so many people in here, and I do not know what's going on in your living rooms. I mean, wherever you are, probably some of you are sitting in Starbucks and watching this. So I don't want to have like a feedback from the background noise. So what I try to do is I try to mute you. But if you have a question, just click on that little icon on your control panel. There on the right-hand side on the top, there is a little arrow. When you click on that, it opens up, and then there is a little palm-like an icon. When you click on that, it flashes on my screen next to your name, and then I know that, oh, Vidya, as an example, wants to ask me a question, or Zara wants to ask me a question, or whoever you are, Neetu or Mary, whoever wants to ask me a question can ask me a question, right? So that's one way of doing it. Let's say, for whatever reason, if you say that, no, I'm not going to ask you a question this way, I will type my question. Fine, type your question. Now, there are usually about 20, 22 people in every session. Chances are, if all of you start typing at the same time, I mean, I might not be able to get to every question right there and then. That doesn't mean that I'm ignoring your question. I will never ignore your question, never, ever, right? So if I don't get to your question in time, that doesn't mean that I'm not paying attention. I would have read that question, but whenever I could take a breather and finish my thought, I would get back and then answer your question. So feel free to post your questions. Feel free to raise your hand so that we could take up your questions and anything. I mean, day one is like free for all. I mean, you could ask me anything, like majority of you are from the Indian subcontinent, so you would be asking like, was that a good movie or not? So you would say that, oh, I spent about like, I'm debating. I did not go because last week it was Diwali. I did not have time. I couldn't go and watch that movie. So is it worth my money? Should I spend that money to watch that movie? Right now, some of you folks might be thinking, who are not from the Indian subcontinent, what is he talking about? Like, what movie is he talking about? But for the rest of you folks, you know what I'm talking about, right? So should you spend your $25 and what? Well, up to you. He made his money, didn't he? Right? He made his 200 crores. Okay, so let's move on. You would find me just to, you know, move away a little bit from this dry content about the 2 hour continuously talking about something. Sometimes, it's like boring for you to listen, for me to say. So, occasionally I kind of like bring these things and we talk, but the intent is not to waste your time. Okay, with that said, let's get back and see what we're going to be covering. Okay, SoapUI. What is SoapUI? SoapUI is a tool, right? It's a tool that is used for testing. Now, you would say that, I know that the QTP is a tool that is used for testing, and I also heard about Selenium, and some of you folks might have taken Selenium course with us in the past. So these are tools, right? These are different tools. So these tools, they are helpful in testing and to do automation testing. So how is SoapUI different? Well, it's again a tool, and it's going to help you to do the testing. Now, with QTP as a tool, you could test something like this. What is this? This is an application, right? So this application runs in a browser, so this can be called as an web application. So that brings us to an interesting question. Now, there are applications out there that needs to be tested, software applications, correct? So now here I am. So if we are talking about software applications that are built, right, by programmers, so those applications, they can be classified as belonging to client-server applications or web applications, right? Or these days, as you know, there are mobile applications, right? I mean, in the past, there used to be, and still there, but at least I am not that much interested in mainframe applications. But these are the different types of applications, right? Client-server applications, mainframe applications, web applications, mobile applications, right? Application is something that helps a business to, in a timid way of saying it is to make some money, right? So everyone wants to make money, right? Businesses wants to make money. So depending on what business you are in, let's say you are an airline, right? So how does airline make money? I mean, of course, they have to sell tickets. So when a passenger comes and buys a ticket, when a customer comes and buys a ticket, of course, they are making money, but they have to provide the service. So the whole thing is a customer buying a ticket. They have to put the customer in a particular plane from a certain airport and drop him off at some other airport, fly safely in certain jet, so there is a departure time, there is an arrival time, there is something called flight getting delayed or flight getting canceled. So these are business specific things, right? So when applications are built, these applications are built for different businesses, right? So if we have to focus on the different business domains, as they call it, there can be like a financial domain. There can be like a retail. Financial applications, I mean, if you go further into banking, like the different banks, right? So in banking, there are different areas. You could be doing loans. You could be doing like, accounts, creating accounts, like your checking account, your savings account, or you could be doing things like commercial loans. So that's all comes under banking, under financial. Or you could be doing brokerages, like, things like your selling stocks, you're buying stocks. So there are companies like E-Trade, there are companies like Ameritrade, Scottrade, and whatnot, right? So they also have a certain business. So they come under financials, let's say. So you have retails like Amazon.com, right? E-commerce site, eBay.com, right? Likewise, Alibaba.com, right? Not necessarily from America, but it's a world-known website. They just came out with their IPO a few months back, made a lot of money. So these days, in e-commerce, people have made a lot of money. Talk about that guy, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, right? So billions of dollars, right? So basically, you have to come up with an idea, you build the application, and if your application can appeal to masses, then you are good. You make billions of dollars, right? So, but that's very, very simply said. But there's a lot of things that is happening behind the scenes when you build the applications. Again, depending on what domain they belong to, I did not go into the other details. Like there is pharmaceuticals, there is airlines, and then there is in transportation, and then there is service industry like hotels and resorts and taking you on cruises, and so different domains. Telecom, you have AT&T, you have this, so that they come under telecom. So different domains. So we are not specifically focusing on any particular domain. What I am going to teach you, because if I focus on finance, let's say, right? I mean, chances are, unless you're working in finance, you probably, out of 22 people who are in here, maybe you are the only one, but the other 21, they might not be. So I have to take something which is generic, right? And try to make you understand the whole thing based on that, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be covered, but all which I am going to cover can be learned, right, and applied to whatever business domain you want to apply to. So if you want to apply to telecom, sure, you could do that. It really doesn't matter, right? Really doesn't matter. What matters is the understanding of how it is done, right, and how you can make it happen, right? So this, take it from me, because of these, and not to boast about myself or anybody like that, only because I've been doing it for some time. So if I'm doing it for some time, chances are I have come across, so many projects in my past, and from that you learn, and you gain knowledge and you gain experience. So I've been doing it for long time. Now this has almost become a joke in every session. Like when I try to throw out some dates or years, some of you, oh, I was not even in high school at that time. Some even said I was not even born. Come on now. Come on. You can't say that you were not born. You were born in 1995, because that's 1996. I finished my master's in computer science, and so 1996, 1997 was my first job, and so I occasionally in our 8 sessions, occasionally I talk about my experiences and stuff like that, and you guys come back and say, oh, I remember in 1995 I was in high school, and some would say I was not even in high school. Well, you try to make me look old now. Don't do that. Please. Anyways, let's come back. Okay, I see a question here. Can you please explain any web services relating to the banking domain? Yeah, I can. In fact, if you are talking about that, I can quickly build one. Not today, but sometime in this course, I can build one, and I can talk about that. Karishma, we can do that. So. Okay, so coming back to these applications, so they can be mainframe applications, client-server, web applications, mobile applications. So let's talk about SoapUI, right? What SoapUI is going to test? SoapUI is a tool, right? This is similar to QTP. This is similar to Selenium. This is similar to so many other tools which are out there, right? So it's a tool. The difference between SoapUI and QTP and Selenium is QTP as a tool or Selenium as a tool, they test, they are testing, let's say, web applications. Selenium can test a web application. Selenium cannot test a client server. Selenium cannot test a mainframe. Selenium is a tool that will help you test the web application, right? It's free, right? It's they call it, as in the better word is open source. Open source means it's free. It's you don't have to buy or purchase any license for something like Selenium. Unlike QTP, QTP is a commercial tool, meaning that it comes from a company called HP, and you have to pay to buy it. Now, QTP, the license for QTP, a single license for QTP can go up to $10,000. $10,000 is what you would pay to get a single license of QTP. So imagine if you have like 2 or 3 or 4 automated testers. The investment is almost about like 40, 50,000. Before even you could, lift your finger and then do anything, you have to, invest that kind of a money to do the testing. So now you would say that how come it's very expensive? Well, if it is expensive, that means that couple of things it can do. It can test that. Of course, it can test that, right? And to a certain extent, it can also go and test that, right? And lately, they have something which is an extra license that you have to buy, and it can go and then it can test this. And there are different applications. When it comes to SAP, when it comes to web applications, there can be an SAP or Siebel, right? Siebel, and my pen is acting up here a little bit. And then, so these are all CRM applications. Now, let these words not confuse you or discourage you and all that. I am very liberally throwing out these terms, right, without putting any effort to explain you about, what is a CRM and all that. But, sometime in this course, when we get some time, we're going to be talking about it. For now, these are different, brands, let's say, or companies. So if you're buying a perfume, right, there are different brands of perfumes, right? So you don't have to just stick with, Chanel or, a particular type. You could go, and if you go to, I don't know, depending on who you are, you might go to Macy's or you might go to, one of those big shops and shop around. So you have variety. So likewise, when you're talking about web applications, you have variety. You could be building web applications using something called Java or something called .NET or something called PHP, and these are the languages which will help you build the applications. Now there are certain platforms, right? SAP is a platform that will help you build web applications that are specific to certain areas of a business, like if you want to do warehousing, if you want to do the distribution, you want to do shipping and handling, you want to do accounting. So there are packages that come out from this SAP, Siebel, and all that. But anyway, so these are the different software applications, and QTP is able to test that. Now, SoapUI, what is SoapUI? How can it test it? Now, before we even discuss about SoapUI, one thing that I have to tell you is when you build an application, now you would say that I'm not even going to build an application, so why are you even giving me an example of building an application? Well, you're going to be testing an application, so you have to have some idea of how applications are built, right? So here is the deal. When a developer builds an application, this is the architecture, right? What do you mean by architecture? Now, if you're building, a house, right? An architect will come and he will plot that. What do you call that? An architect giving this. What is this? That layout? What is? Was it? What is it called? Like, is there a technical name for that? Right? Whatever, right? I mean, we are not civil engineers, so we're not going to talk about that. But he basically would say, he or she would say that, here is my front door. Make sure that it is Vastu, right? Now, I have some folks from probably from Pakistan. They're like, what is Vastu? I'm not going in there, right? Just if this is not a technical term. This is not a technical term. This has something to do with the sun. The sun has to. The sun is the sun moon, not SON. Is S-U-N. The sun, the door has to point somewhere like in the direction where the sun can smile on you, and when you do that, you will have good blessings. So that's the belief, right? So that's Vastu. So don't worry about that if you don't know, because this has nothing to do with SoapUI. Anyway, so an architect, he defines like how many doors, how many windows, how many floors, right? Stuff like that, right? So likewise, when the software application are being built, there is an architect who would basically come up and say that, okay, this is how it is going to be, right? It will be built using certain languages, like if we are going to use, let's say, Microsoft platform. It is going to be Microsoft platform, so meaning that it is going to be running on Windows, because these are some operating systems. You could use Windows, or you could use, let's say, as a part of the operating system, you could use Linux, you could use Unix, things like that. So let's say the architect, he says that, it is going to be a Microsoft platform, the language is going to be C#.NET, the database is going to be, let's say, SQL Server or Oracle, and it is going to be, let's say, using many web services. Now, if you have ignored everything, whatever I have told you so far, that's okay. But this is the word I don't want you to ignore, right? So notice that while the architect was designing the system, he came up with this operating system. He said what language, what database, and he said we will be using web services, right? I'm not going to talk about what is a web service right now, but just have this at the back of your mind that the architect had in his design had said that we will be using web services. And guess what, right? Without knowing what a web service is, take it from me that today's design, web services are almost like every application, it is by default that they're using web services, right? I'll give you the reason for that in a minute, but web services are huge, are big today, meaning that every application, software application, almost every application is using a web service. And what SoapUI does is it specifically, right, is used not to do anything but to test the web service. So if web services have become a critical component in today's software application, meaning that every application, there is a chance that there is going to be a web service or many web services. So if you are learning something which is going to test these web services, and these web services are going to be a critical component of every software application, that can tell you how important your job is if you learn this skill. So learning this skill is going to be very, very beneficial for you. Now you have to decide. We, as TrainingRite, we charge you $399, right? And your investment, I'm saying, is 1 month, right? So now this is let's say this is your investment. Now you got to look into what is the return on my investment. Right? If I'm putting this $400 I'm putting it. You could say it like that, or you could say I'm putting $400, right? So however you say it, if you're putting $400, you're putting 1 month of intimacy you're going to have with this SoapUI, right? And what is in return for me? Now, if I say that I'm not greedy, right? And I am, I always believe in the middle of the road, right? I'm not too aggressive in the sense that, okay, I'm just gonna make up a number and throw it out there, say, oh, you're gonna be making $100 an hour. No, I'll just give you very realistic number. Depending on who you are, right? You could be making somewhere between, if you are a brand new guy, somewhere like $35 to $45 if you are new, right? But if you can manage, right? If you can manage a little bit by learning it good and all that, and if you have like 3 or 4 years of experience, you are talking about at least like, and my numbers are not aggressive, right? So you're talking about $55 per hour, right? So 55, and we usually have 2,000 hours in a year. So we are talking about $110,000, right? I mean, worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, you take 35. 35 times 2,000 is $70,000, right? I'm going with the lowest figure here, right? I mean, $70,000 in the first few months, if that's the money that you are going to make, and this is going to be there for a longer period of time, because this is how the designing of the software applications are going to be, as long as we have a phone, a smartphone, right? Now, if I take you back in the year 19, no, I mean, I can't take you. Let me take you in the 2000, because if I take you in 19, immediately you would say, I was not born. Well, I know you were not born, because I myself was very young when I remember I'm originally from India, so we used to be, in not like big major cities like Bombay or Chennai or Delhi, but I come from slightly smaller place. So there were no phones, right? Landline, to get a landline, you have to bribe. You have to bribe people like thousands of rupees, and then you got to wait for like 2 years, and then you would get a landline. So imagine at that time, right? I mean, imagine at that time, if somebody had told you at that time that, you know what, this beg, no, I take it back. This person who is asking for your help, who comes and works in your house as a maid, or this auto rickshaw driver, or this guy who is going to ask for food, they all will have phones in their hand. Would you have believed it at that time? Now we believe it, right? Because we live in this time. So I am telling you, web services are going to be around for at least another 15, 20 years. So the skill that you are going to learn in here is not going to go rotten for a long period of time. What you got to look into is my investment. What is the return on my investment? Now, out of, let's put a number like 20, 25 people that we have in here. Is everyone going to get a job, and is everyone going to make $110,000? Well, I can say, if not everyone, 90% of you would do that. 90% of you would do that. Now, the 10% will always have a reason. They would say that, oh, you know what? I have to take my daughter to the dancing class, or I have to take my son to basketball game, so I couldn't do the assignment that you gave me, right? Well, what can I do about it? I can't do much about it. I can only request you, hey, try to do it. Try to find some time. There are 24 hours in a day. If you can sleep, one day and focus yourself and do these assignments, because this is what you are investing yourself into. All right. So there is a market. The bottom line of all this is there is a market for it. It's not like there are no jobs, and that is the reason, 9:30 on a Tuesday evening, rather than voting out there and watching the interesting results between Democrats and, Republicans, and how, Republicans are going to kick ass of Democrats right now today. Rather than enjoying all that, you are here sitting with me and, listening to all this only because you see that there is some value in it, right? Trust me, there is tremendous potential in it, right? It's the time for us to, tighten our belts and then make it happen. So promise me that you would invest yourself in the next 4 weeks, and in return, I'm promising you that you definitely would be making some good, decent amount of money, right? Provided you focus. Okay. Let's look into QTP. QTP basically is testing these applications. Selenium is, and SoapUI too. SoapUI, rather than testing everything, it is testing only the web services. Now, let us talk a little bit about where does the web service fit into all this big, picture of the applications. So, if I take you into an application, in an application, right, there are at least, there are many, but think about it, there are at least 3 parts to an application, right? At least a minimum, let's say 3 parts to an application. Now, you would always come back and then you would say that, no, you said only 3, there are, 4. Well, I said, let's go with 3 for now, right? Let's understand. Okay, so there is something called this, right? This layer. And then there is something called this layer, right? And then there is something called this layer, right? Now, different people say things differently, right? What's the difference between an astronaut and a cosmonaut? I mean, both of them, they're sitting in a rocket and going into the space, right? Some they say astronauts, some they say cosmonauts, right? And if you live here in United States for a longer period of time, like 20, 25 years, you would say, what is a cosmonaut? But if you, because back in our countries, we hear about those British vocabulary or Russian or that part of the world. Here, things are different. I mean, we have to turn the switch in a certain way for the light to come up. Here in United States, you have to flip it the other way, right? So, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get your light. You will get your light, but you have to do things slightly differently, right? So every application, there are different, slightly different ways of doing it, but the main idea is there are, let's say, these 3 layers, right? Sometimes they are also calling it as MVC, right? Model, view, and controller, right? So we're going to be talking about that. But for now, let's talk about the GUI and the BLL and DL. So what does GUI stand for? Graphical User Interface. Wow, you say that. I knew that. Now, I would say, what does BLL stand for? You say, do I care about BLL, right? You should not. Let's not worry too much about it. It's a business logic layer, right? So in an application, there is a logic. There's a logic in an application, right? What is the logic? You don't want to sell a ticket if the cinema hall is all full, right? So when you are selling tickets online, the logic is the cinema hall can take like 200 people. I don't know how many they take. Anybody here knows how many they take? Well, it depends like how big or how small. I mean, in India, we used to have like in the past, there is 70 mm, 35 mm, whatever, right? I mean, I left like long time back, but that's how it was. But now they have multiplexes and all that. So many theaters, but like small number of people could go in. So coming back to BLL, business logic layer, and DAL is data access layer, right? Data access layer. So let's say when you look at it, let me show you this. When you look at this application, what part of it are you looking at? You would jump onto it and you would say that. Now you would say, you ask a question and you don't even let me respond. Now I would say, I never stop you from responding, so type it in there, right? So what is this layer? This layer is, yeah, I'm waiting. Thank you. Okay, so Vidya says that, come on, it's a GUI, right? Zera says it's a GUI, right? Okay, so basically it's a GUI layer, graphical user interface. So now, using QTP, you can test the GUI, meaning that in a GUI, what do you have? Like this one. It has like 30 per page. What should be, if I drop it down, there should be other values in it. So if you are testing, they will say that when you drop down this box, there will be values in it, and they will say that these are the values. So what are the values? There should be 30, 10, 20. If it is like minus 75, let's say, right? Minus 75, that means that there is a bug in the application. So there's a defect in the application. So with automation testing tools like QTP and Selenium, they can test what? They can test the GUI part of it, right? Now with SoapUI, you are not testing the GUI. You are testing what? The web services. Now you would say, what is a web service? Where is it? How can I even test it, right? Well, I'm going to come to that in a second. Right? Now, the idea here is with QTP, with Selenium, these are GUI testing tools. Now, other than GUI, we also had something in there that we talked about, right? We had business logic layer, right? And we have data access layer. Now, what happens is when a programmer, when he is writing his code, when he writes his program, right? What he does is he uses this plus this plus this. This is for the screens or for the presentation, right? Presentation of the whatever you want to show in the screen, he will show it in the screen using this GUI, right? So he will have like controls like drop down, and he will have like radio buttons, and he will have like text boxes, and he will have like things like that, right? So those are the things he will be working with. So mostly there are designers who will work on the cosmetic aspects of it, like coloring and laying out and all that. So in a team of developers are writing code. They might write code for the GUI, or they might write code for the business logic. For the business logic, what if you're buying a ticket, right? So it has to, as they are selling the ticket, right? Do you remember those days when we used to go and then buy the ticket in the cinema hall, and when you put your hand in that window, he closes it. He used to close that, right? And now you are like, oh my God, he had to do it for me. I mean, just one more person, and then what would I care if they do it for somebody else? But I mean, he got to do it at some point. When is he doing it? If he tears off the last ticket. But online, how do you do that? So every time we sell a ticket, there is a number. So number is 400. So in the business logic, every time you sell a ticket, the logic is total count, which is 400, minus the tickets you're selling, minus the tickets. So if you sell like e-commerce, when you take the credit card, and if you sell like, let's say, 2, so the new total is what? 398. Then you sell 4. The new total is what? 392, whatever, right? 394. So likewise, it has to come to 0. So that code, kind of like, think about it, that code goes into the business logic there, right? Now, when you are paying by your credit card, right, they have to store that information somewhere. So there is a database. There are different databases out there, as you all know, right? I mean, is there any disturbances? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes what happens is my daughter, she has to watch her movie on Netflix, and she has to text on her cell phone, and she has to so and here I am conducting this class, and it's an online thing, so everything is based on the bandwidth and the internet. And I tell them that you know what, when it is evening, when I'm doing this class, please don't use the internet, but they have to. So anyways, so let's come back and discuss about it. So data access layer is whenever you do something, it's going to go and then write into the database. There are many databases out there: SQL Server, Oracle, Sybase, Informix, DB2, and like the newer databases like MySQL, and then now you have like the big data and Hadoop and this and that, right? So many things. All right. So the idea here is the developer is also responsible about writing the data and reading the data from the database. So in the application, they do all that, right? So when they are writing this code, the whole thing is that when they are writing the code, right, they want to write the code in such a way that that code is reusable, right? Notice the term. It's reusable. Now you would say, what do you mean by reusable? Here it is, right? And hear me and ask me a question if you still don't understand reusable. So when you write the code, the idea here is the code should be reusable. So what do you mean by reusable? Here is the answer. Now, who are the users of this? This is the whole application they are creating, the developers are creating, right? This is the application. Who can use the application? Now you would say that the application has to be used by a computer, right? So in a computer, you have what? You have a browser. So it should be showing in the browser. So when you show something in a browser, what kind of application it is called, right? When you show something in the browser, so it is a web application. So this is, so when the programmer is writing the code, he is writing the code, right? And he wants that code to be used here, right? And he wants the code to also be used here, because these days you want to do things on your phone, right? So his code cannot be only for this one. So his code has to be reusable. So the code has to be reusable so that it can be used by different types of application, right? You get it now? So if the code has to be, used by different types of application, then you have to write the code in such a way that it can be utilized by different types of applications. So how do you do that? Enter something called web services. So web services is nothing but the way of writing the code, not only just writing the code, but deploying the code such a way that it can be shared by multiple applications. You get that? So here the word deploying, meaning that it's not only how you write the code, but how you deploy the code. Deploying the code is hosting, right? Hosting or placing, right? Now hosting, deploying, these are technical or buzzwords, right? If I have to bring it down to a layman's term, it is like placing, putting, right? You have to put the code. Where do you put the code? Where do you put the code? That's the deploying, right? So when you write the code, you have to place the code. Place the code where? Into something called app servers, right? Or the better name of that is web servers, right? So you have to deploy the code. Deploying is nothing but placing the code. You have to place the code on a web server. So what is a web service? A web service is nothing but it's some code, right? The developer will be writing some code. It's some code, right? This code is written in such a way that it is reusable, meaning that it can be used by not mainframe, but it can be used by, even mainframes can use it. Client server applications, it can be used by web applications, it can be used by mobile applications. So by writing the code as a web service, you can reuse it, right? So it becomes extremely important in today's time that the code, maximum code, whatever code that is needs to be shared between the applications, must be written as a web service code. So when you write the web service code, that web service code, in order to be utilized, in order to be used, it has to be deployed. Deployed is placing it. So it has to be placed on what is called the web servers. Now the answer is, what kind of web servers would we be using? So what are the web servers? If somebody comes from out of this planet Earth, right? It comes from Mars. Now you would say, who is going to come from Mars? Make believe somebody comes from Mars. And if you tell him that, I have to take my Camry, right? I mean, you would say that he need not even come from Mars. He could come from from Bangladesh. No, nothing against Bangladesh. Anywhere where they don't know about Camry. So if I tell you right now, if I tell you Apache, right? If I tell you Tomcat, if I tell you WebLogic, if I tell you WebSphere, if I tell you IIS, so you are that guy from Mars to whom I'm saying that, well, I got to deploy my code into my WebSphere. You're like, what? Can you talk to me in English? Now, if the guy who came from Bangladesh, or from wherever, right, from Mars, and if he tells you, Camry, what Camry, right, then you have to tell there is a Honda, there is a Camry, there is a BMW, and there is a Mercedes. So now you have to explain, right? So imagine, and not to offend any one of you, right, I was once upon a time think about like a guy from Mars when it comes to web services. You learn. So think about like, you are from Mars, you're trying to learn. Very soon, probably like in the next class, if I ask you, define web service for me, you would say that, oh, it's a reusable code that developers they build, and then that needs to be deployed onto the web servers so that it can be used by different types of application. Fantastic. That's exactly what it is, right? Now, is it very technical? Not really. Why I did not talk about too technical terms, jargons? Today is not the time. Today is not the time. Today is not the place to talk about that. But once I lay out the plot a little bit, right? Once you try to get the idea of what these things are, then we introduce the technical jargon into it. Now, if I tell you, well, you got to be knowing about WSDL, you got to be knowing about XPath, you got to be knowing about XSLT, you got to be knowing about Saxon, you got to be, now you are like, what the heck? Who do you think you are talking to? And you would just get out of here. Day 3, if I tell you, let's go and find out the XPath. Not me, you will do it. Because there is a time and then there is a place to do everything, right? So today is not the time to talk about this technical jargon. Now you would say that I am in a rush, I got to know all of these things. I would say, well, in that case, you have to go and watch the videos. We will give you those videos in advance, right? So this is the month of November. So we have videos from October, from September. Go and watch those videos. In 2 days, you would be done. You would be knowing everything about it. And then when you come and then sit here, you would enjoy it a little bit more because you would have seen this movie and now you are catching. Now you would say that, this is going to happen. But guess what? The way I will run my movie is I would surprise you because it's not going to be like exact. It would be more like a sixth sense. I mean, we are still debating in our house after watching Sixth Sense, that movie so many times. What was the suspense in the end? Who was the guy who was dead? Was that the kid or, this guy? Anybody? You would say, Sixth Sense, I don't even remember. That's so many years ago. I was like in a high... I'm so sorry. So let me see. Okay, so let's come back and talk about you have a little understanding of a web service right now as what it is. Bottom line, web service is nothing but it's code, right? Written in some language. So the language can be Java, language can be... Now, you would say that, do I have to know the language in which the web service is written for me to test it? I would say no. No. Right? I would say no. You don't have to know that. Right? You have to know something. What is that something? You have to know how to test a web service. So let's talk a little bit more about how we are going to test a web service. Now, before I test a web service, and we are still in hour 1 right now, it's still 9:30. I still have 1 more hour to go. And I promise you, before you get out of here, we will be testing a web service, right? So don't worry about that. So I will make sure that we test a web service. Now, there are 2 things that I can tell about when I see my audience sitting quiet, right? Not participating, not saying a word. 2 things can happen, right? One thing is you are thinking like, what am I doing here? He is talking about things that I cannot even have a bleak idea about it, right? Nothing I know about it, and how can I even ask a question? I know nothing about it, right? That could be one possibility, and you are like, what am I going to ask? I mean, he's talking gibberish to me, right? That is one possibility. The other possibility could be, I am so good that you are understanding everything, and then you have no question. I'm just teasing you, man. Come on. I'm just teasing you. You don't have to take things so seriously. Okay, so here is what we're going to be doing. In order to test a web service, um, I have to take an application. So let's talk about an application. The application could be, let's say, um, chase.com, right? This is the application. Well, there's one thing that you see here, right? Whether it is Chase or whether it is Bank of America.com, right? Right? Whether it is tdbank.com. Now you would say, what is TD Bank? Never heard of it. Well, if you live in a place like New Jersey, then you would know what is TD Bank, because you might find less people than banks, TD banks. I'm exaggerating a little bit, meaning that every nook and corner of New Jersey, you'd find a TD bank. Everywhere there is TD bank. Let's take Wells Fargo. Now you would say, what are you doing? What is your point? Like, what are you trying to say here? Well, I would say that, did you notice something here, right? Did you notice here? Username, password, right? Did you notice that, right? Where? You notice that in Wells Fargo. Well, let's go here. Login, right? And not that, so erase that. And do you notice that here? Again, username, password, right? Okay, so if you go and see, there is a possibility that every application, right? Every application has got this username and password, right? Now, I am looking right now, I'm looking at my phone. I have a Samsung Note phone. I'm looking at it, and I have on my phone a TD Bank banking application. And if I type my username here, or I type my username on my phone, it'll give me access. It'll give me access, right? Okay, think about it. Think about it. So what does that tell you? I want one person to tell me, what does that tell you? So we are talking about a banking application. In a banking application, I have a feature. I have a feature. I have a feature. The feature is you have to log in. You have to log in, right? Now, is this feature being used by multiple applications? Yes or no? Yeah? So do you think there is a possibility that this feature, the code that is written for this, right, is what? Is the code that is written for this is what? Could be a web service, reusable code, a web service? It makes sense, right? Okay, now what you see here, this is the GUI. This is the GUI. I am not interested in the GUI. I am interested in the web service. Now, let me just try to make you understand, looking at something, right, how there can be a web service for it, right? How there can be a web service and how the developer could have created the web service, right? And I want each one of you to nod your head. I mean, I would not know if you're nodding your head. The way you nod your head is yes or no, right? And participate in it. Now, I'm going to basically come up with a web service for this, right? Web service for this. Okay, so when you are creating web service is nothing but the code. When we are creating the code for this feature is called, by the way, this feature is called one second, this feature is called authentication. That feature is called authentication. So what do you mean by authentication? Authentication is nothing but, right, validating, right, the credentials, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Let me just do some drawing, right? And let's talk about a few things. We are not doing anything technical here. Nothing that I am doing is technical. We are just discussing something so that I'm trying to build, right? As how you can take anything, right, as a concept, right, and try to understand how the developer would have created a web service. So here is the thing. So the idea here is you would be entering your username and password, right? Okay. Now, and you would say login, right? Now, what is the objective? Think in your head. What is the objective? When I'm logging in, when I log in into my banking application, what is my goal? Do I want to see? Do I want to chat with my girlfriend there? Right? Or do I want to buy a pair of shoes by logging into the bank? The idea here is when I log in, I might possibly have an account there. I might have an account. And if you have a bank account, what do you have there? You deposit into the bank account. Deposit what? Money. So if you had deposited something, there should be some balance of money, right? So you can deposit or you can withdraw, right? And it should still show you the balance, right? So all this of your account, all of this information, you think this information of your balance and your how much you have deposited, when you have deposited, what bills you have paid and all that, do you think I should see that information of your bank account? You think, come on, I mean, you would say that, come on, be reasonable now, right? So that means that this username and password, this username, which is for, let's say, Vidya, right? I don't know her password, right? Some password. When she enters username and password, that username and password should allow her to look into her account, right? Now, how can I make sure that when I enter Vidya and some password that it is good? So this username and password must be stored somewhere, right? The word store means, okay, there is some database. So this application, this banking application will have a database, right? Will have a GUI. This is the GUI front end, right? And through the GUI, it will go and it will check into the database, right? Inside a database, what do you have? You have tables, right? Table is nothing but it's the storage. So it'll this table could be like customer accounts or something like that, right? Name of the table. So in the customer accounts, I have to make sure that me as a developer, I have to make sure that when somebody types Vidya and then the password, when they click on login, I have to go to this database and I have to check in the table if Vidya and the password is right. If she entered the password 12345, that definitely is not her password, right? I'm just making it up. And if that's the password, if that is good, if it finds the password, then it should give the access to the account, right? Now, all this is some code, right? All this is some code. This code that is going to check that in the bank, in the table, if that data is there or not, right? This code should be used by what? By a phone also, right? Imagine that this is a phone. As you can see, I'm very weak in my drawing. So from the phone, we should type whatever it is and it should go. So that means that that code has to be reusable, meaning that it has to be a web service, right? Okay, now inside a web service. So you understood the need for that code to be as a web service because this is a phone and this is a web, right? Okay. Now, this code inside a web service, it should behave the way it is supposed to behave. And how is it supposed to behave? How is it supposed to be? You tell me, how is it supposed to behave? If this code is send a username and if it's send a password. So these two things I have to send to this code. I cannot send only the username and click because it will not work. I cannot send only the so I have to send the username and password and possibly some more if there is. This is in a minimum format. I have to send to this, right? So send where? To this web service. Now, if I say if I go to a mall, right, and you and me, we are friends, we are at the mall, and then I just tell you that I gave you some money, right? Now you would not know anything with it. Like, do you have to buy some popcorn with it, or do you have to buy something, or what? So I got to tell you some details, right? So when I give the username and password, I have to tell where to go, to whom it has to, right? What it is doing. So there is not one web service. There could be like 100 other web services. This web service is for what? To log in. Let's say the name of the web service is login. So here is the deal. Here is the deal. Let us talk a little bit more when it comes to a web service. When it comes to a web service, right, there are things about the web services that you need to know. There is something called ABC. We say that, oh, come on, you don't even know the ABC of, racing a car. What do you mean by ABC? ABC meaning that basic things you don't know about it, right? So here, ABC is not in that context. Here, ABC definitely means something. A stands for address. B stands for binding. C stands for contract. So a web service that is nothing but some code, it should have A, B, and C. Now you would say that, what is A, B, and C? What is binding? What is contract? What is address? Well, I will tell you what it is. Right? Web service is some code. Now, we have many children, right? When you go to a school, there are so many children there. There are so many web services here, right? In a banking application. One is to check deposit, check withdrawal, check the balance, make deposit, withdraw money. The different web services for each purpose, right? So a web service must have a name. Right? So this web service, which whatever we are supposed to do with this web service, if you give the username and password, that has a name. So let's say that has a name called login web service, right? If you want to use WS as a web service, right? That's fine. Login web service. There is something called deposit web service. There is something called withdraw web service. And then there is something called check balance web service. So there are, right now, I gave you 4 web services, right? Okay. Now, do you agree that these 4 web services, right, if I'm dealing with TD Bank, if I'm a TD Bank developer of a web service, I might not use it in Bank of America. They might not even allow me to go into Bank of America. This is common sense. I feel bad even saying it, but then I have to say it only to make sure that you understand that web services, they belong to an application. So all these web services, they belong to, let's say, Chase. So this is Chase web service. So inside Chase web service, right, we have these 4 web services. Right? So rather than saying that these are 4 web services, right, this is what you want to say. You want to say that these are 4 operations, right? So what is an operation? An operation is nothing but it's a feature, right? Meaning that login is a feature, right? So deposit is a feature of a banking application. Withdrawal is a feature. So to test every feature, if there is a web service, you don't want to make it a web service, but you want to make all this as a part of the main web service. So these are all the parts of the main web service. So there is a main web service, and inside the main web service, there are operations. These operations, right, are nothing but the developer or the programmer, when he creates this, he creates that as functions, right? So those are called functions. So a web service, from a developer's point of view, a web service is nothing but it's a collection. It's a collection meaning many. It has many functions. So inside the web service, you have many functions. One is the login function. The other one is withdraw function. The other one is deposit function. The other one is check balance function. So these are functions, right? Functions are also called as operations. So if I am using the web service lingo, if I'm using the web service terminology, buzzwords, then I have to say that inside a web service, you have operations. You have many operations. So let's take the login operation. So for the login operation, what do you think? For me to test the login operation, I have to minimum, what do I have to send to the login? What do I have to send to the login? Username, very good. Password, right? Those minimum things I have to send, right? Okay, now hold that thought, because I am going to continue and do this. So a web service is nothing but it's a collection of what? Functions, right? Collection of functions. Functions are also called as operations, correct? Functions are also called as operations, right? So one of the function was login. So login is nothing but the operation. So login, if it is an operation, for the login to work, I have to send to the login, I have to send something called username, right, and password. So when you send some data, to an operation, when you send that data is called the parameter, or the better word is input parameter. So to a web service, to this web service login operation, I have to send at least username and password, correct? Okay. Now, when I send the username as Vidya and password as whatever password, now the web service will do something. It will check this against the database, and hopefully it'll come back and give a message that it is good or bad, let's say, right? Or does this information exist in the database? True. Doesn't exist? False. So something the developer might have done something, or he might have he will return a message. Either he will return this is called Boolean. Boolean means true or false. Either he will return true or false, or he will return a message like good or bad. So he will return, the code will return something. So that return again is the return parameter. So an operation, there is input to the operation, and the operation will give the output. So input parameter and output parameter. So in a web service, you have operations. Operations can take parameters, input parameters, and it will give some output parameters, right? Okay. So again, taking a step back, in a web service, you have one or more operations. Each operation will take some input parameters and it will give you some output. What it gives you output, right? We will be told. So we will be told that we will be given an output of true or false, right? Let's say. So if you input, like, let's say, cat as the username and dog as the password, and if you get a false as the return, right? So we are inputting something, we are getting the output. Now we have to check. There will be, while we are testing, there will be a test data. Test data will be in Excel, and the test data will be something like this: username, password, right? And this is the expected result. So username, let's say, is Irfan, right? Password is TrainingRite, right? And this is, let's say, good, right? And this is, let's say, I don't know, let's say Zera, right? Password is, I don't know, something, USA, right? And this is, let's say, false. Now, this is the expected. When I send in my GUI, when I send this username and the password and click on that, and if it comes back and say that bad password, right, or bad username or password, right? So here the expected is it should say good, but if it is returning a bad, that means that this set failed, right? So we have to look for things like that, and we have to test it. Now, excuse me. So before you even go and then do the testing like that, right, the first and the most important thing that you need to know before even you could do any testing is, in a web service, there are operations, right? In order to test an operation, you have to know what input we have to supply to that operation, and what response are we supposed to get out of that operation. All right? Okay. With that said, now I said that there will be ABCs of a web service, right? Now, in order to test a web service, let's say, fast forward this 1 month, and you all come out with flying colors, and I want to hire you, and let's say I work for Bank of America, and I hire all 20 of you, right? And I say, I want you to test this web service. Now, where would you begin? You like, am I supposed to test? What should what am I testing? What should I do? Well, first of all, you need to have a tool, right? Here is the tool. The tool that we are all agreeing to do the web service testing in this course is SoapUI. So let me talk to you a little bit about the SoapUI. SoapUI comes in more than one format. SoapUI is a pro, and SoapUI is an open source. Open source is free. Pro is license-based, so you have to pay money to get the Soap Pro version. Now, you can go to a website called SoapUI.org, and you can download it from there. So if you go in here, and if you take a look here, right here, they came out with a newer version of the SoapUI. SoapUI got an upgrade. It is called SoapUI NG, so it's the newest version of it. There are certain changes that have happened from the previous to the newer version, and that is about upgrading some of the features like mock service, how to do that, and then the API integration has become a little bit better, because now you could do the REST service testing has become much more easier than in the past. So, but I don't want to talk about those features right now, because it won't make sense, because you don't know anything about it, so I won't talk about it. So today I'll just talk about downloading it. So you can download the SoapUI Pro version, or you can download the open source version. So if you are going to download, if you see here on the main page, SoapUI.org, if you go here on the main page, if you come here, down here are your SoapUI and SoapUI Pro. So there is a 32-bit and then there is a 64-bit. The difference between 32 and a 64-bit is your machine. So let me go to control panel and take a look on the control panel. Some of you might have like small icons. Because I want to show it, I want to have like a big icon so that you could see. Go into the system, and when you go into the system, here it'll show you whether you have a 64-bit operating system or you have a 32-bit operating system. I, for one, I have, Knockwood. It's a pretty expensive machine that I have because I make money off this machine, so I have to have a better machine. So I have a Windows 7 Ultimate, and I have this is 16 gigabytes. But more importantly, you are looking at either 64 or a 32-bit, right? So now you should be focusing on this 6432, and you come in here and download the one that you have to download. Now, SoapUI versus SoapUI Pro. So don't download SoapUI Pro yet. Do not download it yet because it comes with a 15 days license, and there will be, while we are in this class, I want you to make the best use of this Pro version. So don't download it yet. You can download the open source version of it. This is free. Again, you can download the 64-bit or a 32-bit, doesn't matter whichever one you want to download. So depending on your operating system, when you click on that, you come in here and you see your download will start, and it should start any minute, and then it should get downloaded. Here it is. It is downloading. So I will save it, and what I have done is I double clicked on that, and then it'll do the installation. And notice here this green versus blue, right? This green is the open source, meaning that it's not the pro version, it's the non-pro version. So what is the difference between the two? Right now I will not talk about the difference between the two. I will just show you this because I mean, you know, it's too early right now to talk about. I mean, I can talk, but it won't make much sense to you at this time. So I will wait for like at least 1 or 2 more classes before we talk about the differences between the two. But the main difference is with SoapUI open source, you have to write the code. You have to write the code in order to do some advanced things because easier things you could do it, but the advanced things you have to write the code. Right? Okay. In the Pro version, you don't have to write a lot of code because everything is done by click, click, click. It'll be done. Right? The licensing is not $10,000. It's not even $1,000. It's like $300 and change. So your company should definitely go and then buy that. So, and I will very soon in this course I'll talk about the differences between the two. Right now I'm just using this. So let me start and open this open source. Okay. In order for you to test a web service, the first thing that you have to know is from the ABC, you have to know the A of the web service. What is the A? Meaning the address of the web service. Where is the web service? Remember, while doing this, I told you about deployment, right? If you see here, I talked about deploying. So when the web service is created by the developer, he has to go and he has to deploy it. So deploy is placing it on a server. So you have to know the address of that server. You have to know the address of the server, where the server is. So that is called the URL or the address, or the better word is endpoint. So what is the endpoint? The endpoint of a web service is nothing but the address where it is hosted, right? Or deployed. So the details about whatever you need to test, let's say fast forward 4 weeks, I already hired you, you are at Bank of America, and I tell you to go and test a web service. The very first question that should come into your head is, where is the web service? Meaning the address of the web service. So I would say here is the WSDL. You are like, what? No, you won't say what at that time because you would have taken the training and all that. So you would shine like a star because you are going to be the star because you are learning all this. So point here is when somebody tells you to test a web service, you would ask for a WSDL. What is WSDL? WSDL stands for Web Service Description Language. So it describes the A's, B's, and C's. Describes meaning that it gives you all the details. Detail of A is where it is, the endpoint, right? Meaning the address where it is. So where is the address of the web service? Where would you find it? Inside which document? You would find it inside the WSDL, because WSDL is a document, right? WSDL is a document, Web Service Description Language. It is a document. This document is written in XML. Now you would say that, what is XML? I would say that for you to learn English, you have to learn alphabets. So if you say, what is an alphabet? Then I would say that it is something like A, B, and C, and D, and then if you put these together, A, B, C, D, you know what that is, but if you put those together, they form a word, and this means something. This is a cat, and cat says meow, you know, things like that, right? So these are alphabets. So like that, in WSDL is made up of XML. XML is a language, right? Not like French or German or for that matter, Spanish or anything like that, that it'll take like weeks for us to learn. You will learn XML in 10 minutes. Why? How come, you say? How come? And how in the world can you learn a language in 10 minutes? I would say that, well, I challenge you. I will teach you in 10 minutes. You would say that, are you a magician? I would say no, because you are smart. You are giving me that 10 minutes, and I will teach you XML in 10, not literally in 10 minutes, but you know what it is, right? So if I tell you that I'm going to start XML now, right, and teach you XML in 10 minutes, would you believe me? You're like, no, I don't believe you. But I will make an effort. So this is turning out to be like an Indian movie. In an Indian movie, you have everything in an Indian movie. We call it, the word is, except for like 2 or 3 people in here, majority of you are from India. So it has become like a hodgepodge, like a masala movie, right? I have brought in GUI, BLL, DAL, web services, WSDL, address, binding, contract, XML. Come on. So many things, right? But it's doable. Did I lose you at any moment in this past like hour and a half? You have to talk to me in a truthful way. I mean, I have given you a lot of masala, meaning that it'll make you, I have to watch this movie again. Right? There's so many things in this movie. Of course, there's so many things. I mean, day one, I gotta put many things in. But if you think that, oh, this is like my head is hurting right now, this is not for me, I cannot take it anymore, then it's a different story. But if you say, no, I think if I put a little bit of effort, maybe I'll get it, then, okay, you're fine. Right? So I don't know what's going on in your head. I do not know. But I'm going to make an effort to teach you XML in 10 minutes. Right? Not literally in 10 minutes, but I will at least introduce you to XML. So here is what, right? XML, they say, is what? Is a language, right? Language tells us something. It's like, language you speak to make some sense, right? Okay, so now I am going to say, let's say this. You all know what that is, right? I mean, some of you, I mean, George, who is here, I mean, the only nice American. I mean, you know that this is my name. Otherwise, you would think probably it's a fruit, right? Or probably you would think that, I don't know what it is, right? Because we don't know what it is, right? Now, nothing against, this, but, Even some people would say, what is this? Yeah. It's 10 o'clock. So what is this? We don't know what is this, right? But do you agree with me that this looks like some data? This looks like some data, right? So now you would say, is this XML? I would say that, no, it's not XML, but let me come to it. So let's say, right? And let's go with that, and let's go with, right? So I'm using some of your names here, right? Right? Okay. Now, of course, this, right? But some of you guys probably would not know what this is. You would not even know, let's say is this a male or a female, right? Is this a male or a female? Or for that matter, is this a male? I mean, unless you know, right? So the reason I'm saying unless you know, so how can you know looking at it? This is some data, right? But if I do this, right? If I do this, right? And say, right? All of a sudden, this coconut or a fruit all of a sudden makes sense. No, it's not a fruit. It's the trainer, right? Or he is the trainer, or she's the trainer. I mean, if you hear my voice, you would. But how about this? How about now there is no ambiguity here, right? So this is not only a trainer, but he's a male. Now this is, let's say, right? So what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to do here? So basically what I'm trying to do here is, this is the data, but I am using this less than and greater than and having something in it that is basically describing my data, right? So XML is the language of tags. Let's say tags, right? So these are this opening and closing, these are tags, right? So these tags, they describe the data. So XML is nothing but it's the data. This itself is a data. It's the data about the data, right? So now you would say that now you're confusing me a little bit. No, don't worry about it, because you and I, we are not XML developers. We are not developers. We are just testers who need to understand XML in a basic way so that we could do our job. What is our job? Our job is to find out whether we get Sridevi or not, whether we get Zara or not, right? If you get this between this opening and closing, if you get something between the opening and closing of the tags here, closing of the tags, if you get something, right? If you find something, this is our data. This is the data that we should be looking for, because this basically describes what this is. So if I tell you in a WSDL is full of tags. So that means that WSDL is XML. There is a lot of XML in it, right? But if you find, let's say, if you find something in the WSDL as address, and if the address is http bankofamerica.com/something, right? End of address. When you look into something like this is address, this is that. Now, does it help you understand that this is nothing but this is our endpoint? right? Or this is the URL, or this is the address that we should be, because it is inside the address. So this address is the XML tag that is describing this value, what this is. So this Venu is some value. This is describing, what Venu is. So likewise, inside a WSDL, it will. So now, when you look at something for the very first time, you are like, it is painful. I cannot do this anymore, right? Driving, go back like 15 years. I mean, you again would come back. No, I can't go back because I'm just like 25. How can I go back 15 years? So I don't want to put a number, but I just talk about my own life, and that's why I use these numbers. But it could be any number you could apply. But you go back to a time when you did not knew about driving. So when you opened the door, when you sat down for the very first time, turning your ignition, you were looking at the key and you are looking at where is it going to go. And when you started, you're looking at your legs, like which is the brake, which is this. Today, do you do that? You don't do that. So when you look into the WSDL document for the first time, when am I going to be showing it to you tomorrow or on Thursday, you're going to be like, wow, this is too much. But very soon, it'll grow on you. You will grow with it, and then it becomes like part of your life, right? The idea here is ignition, right? The key, you should not be putting it in the wrong place, right? That you have to remember. It turns on your car. So it has to be placed at the right place. So WSDL gives you information about, right? We talked about it, right? So WSDL gives you the information about, I don't even know, we have so many things open here. Yeah, here. So the WSDL gives you the information about the address, binding, and contract. So we did not talk about the binding. We did not talk about the contract. So you have to know where the address is. So that information is given in the WSDL document. So here is, I will share with you right now one of the WSDL's. Okay, we will be testing. These are the we will be testing many of these web services, right? Many of the web services, and for banking, I will see if I could create a web service for the banking, and then we will do that as well. So right now, I am going to take a credit card processing. Now, let me. We have very limited time, but let me very quickly ask you this: in a credit card feature, right? Feature of a credit card. Let me just and I want you all to participate right now. I mean, don't just sit idle. I mean, do you even appreciate the fact that for 2 hours I am continuously talking, right? So is it fair if I ask you to talk to me and participate when I tell you to do something? Okay, here is the deal. There's a huge page. My pen is like totally giving up on me now. So there is so many things happening here. You're choosing the things in here. You're putting the number of things, and finally you're coming in here to put the credit card information. So in the credit card information, what information do you think in order to process a credit card? Tell me the information. So you all have to tell me, here is the name of the web service, right? Credit card processing, right? This is the name of the web service, right? So this has to process the credit card, right? So this is the operation, let's say, right? The name of the web service is, let's say, there is a company called, we use eBay, so we call it ePay. Electronic payment systems. So there's a company called ePay Systems. It has got so many web services, and one of the operation is credit card processing, right? Okay, now I need each one of you to tell me, for this operation, what are the input parameters for this operation? Okay, I see a lot of you folks giving me details, right? So you say customer name, right? Okay, and It could be customer address as well. Now, main thing is what, right? Now, if you go to the gas station and process your credit card, do you tell, I am Mr. So-and-so, my address is so-and-so? Do you say that? No, you don't even say. And the guy who's taking your credit card, trust me, I mean, nothing against, hardworking people. Many times they cannot read. So even if you give them the credit card, they would not know your name. So he's not asking your name. So is name mandatory? Well, if it is there, it is there. If it is not there, who cares? So what are the minimum things that you have to have in there for credit card processing? Tell me. So now you would say that, how about credit card number, right? So you have to have credit card number. Can you process a credit card without a credit card number? You would say, are you kidding me? Okay, so you have to have a credit card number, right? And what is the other thing? Expiration date, right? Month and date expiration, right? And what else? Just these two things. Main important thing is, what are you doing with this credit card? Of course, the CVV, the one in the back, if you have better. But how about the most important thing? Think about it. Credit card processing, right? So here you have bought something. You have bought something. So even though you don't have to type how much it is, the dollar amount, you don't have to type. But the credit card is processing what? Money, right? So indirectly or directly, amount is involved in there. You just cannot give the credit card and the expiration and not expect that amount to be charged. So whether you input it or not, but the amount is also as a parameter going to the processing. Agree? Do you agree with me? Yeah? Okay. So now you would say that, do I have to guess these things? The answer is no, we don't have to guess these things. So here is the deal, right? Now think about it. Think about the beauty and watch the beauty of the tool that we are going to use. So here is the deal, right? Here is my tool. There is a lot of garbage here, so I'm gonna take out this garbage. So because I have very limited time right now, so I'm gonna do it a little bit faster. So pay attention to what I am doing. This is a tool, right? Like SoapUI is a tool, like Word, Microsoft Word, like Excel, right? Tools help us to do our jobs. You would say, how does Excel help us? It will do like, spreadsheet, like accounting and all that, right? So now, does a janitor use Excel? No, who knows? I mean, if he wants to, if he has like 500 accounts, maybe he will, right? If he has only one thing, does the plumber use it? So depending on the tools, I mean, does a doctor in his surgery using, a hammer? I mean, who knows, so there is a right tool for everything. You agree, right? So SoapUI is the tool to do what? What does a SoapUI do as a tool? Thank you. So it tests web services, right? So the focus is web service. So now looking at this, right, I have to somehow tell the SoapUI tool about that web service, right? So I have to start fresh. If you look at it, this tool has the menu items on the top. There is this, shortcuts like the toolbar, and you see something here on the left side. There is a box here. There's a top box, right? And then you see a bottom box here, and then you see all this on the right hand side. You see this, right, in a tool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right from the beginning. So what the beginning is, this tool is being used for something here. So I will start from the beginning. So the way I'm going to start from the beginning is I'm going to do this. I will go to this file, and I'm not going to start a project, no nothing. The beginning is something called a workspace. So I'm going to start off with a workspace. Now you would say, what is a workspace? I'm going to go detail about all of these things in the next class, right? For now, because of lack of time, so we'll start off with a workspace, new workspace. So I have to give it a name. So let's say this is a I'm testing a credit card web service, right? So this is for a company called ePay systems, right? Make believe. I mean, this is like, you don't have to Google and find out like ePay system doesn't exist. And this is just make believe right now, right? ePay systems, right? So we are testing the ePay systems web service testing, right? Okay, so and it is saying that, oh, you have to save it. So where do you want to save it? I want you to install that on your machine. As an assignment, you will be doing this. Whatever I'm doing now, you will be doing this as an assignment. And I will also give you some questions to all of you who are going to be a registered member of this, coming back for the second class. To those folks, I'll be sending you some interview questions based on today's topic. I will send you some interview questions and you have to answer them. And if you don't answer them, if you find difficulty, we will discuss about it in the second class. And this is what we will do every time. So as the course becomes more and more intense, you will be finding me giving you more interview questions, so that when you go for that interview, you literally could blow the guy off with your answers, because we would have covered everything in this course. Whatever he possibly could ask you, I would have covered that as a part of this course. So your interview is gonna be like, you will shine like a star. Take it from me, you will shine like a star. You have to agree with me on this one, right? Because you will. The only thing that I need from you is that commitment from your side, that you will not come back not doing the assignments, not come back not answering those questions. If you come back without that, all bets are off. I take my word back. I say that no, it's not happening to you. So tell your mother-in-law, please leave for a few days, let her go someplace so that you don't have to really worry about anything. Focus about learning SoapUI. Okay, so now new workspace, we are saving it. So in C drive, I want you to create a folder, like I call it SoapUI training. So I go in there, and in here, you could create a folder. This folder will not be there. So you create a folder, workspaces, SoapUI_workspaces. And in here, I'm saving it. So as you can see in the previous classes, I have done something. So you see the dates in here. So I'll just save it. Right? So it's coming back, save all projects before switching, because there are some projects here. So I'll say no. So what I have created now is a workspace. I've created a workspace. After you create a workspace, think about it. You are supposed to test a web service now. You are at Bank of America. You are at ePay system. ePay system hired you, and they told you to test a web service, right? So you have to know the address. So once you know the address, you can test it. But how can you even test it? First thing, workspace. You created the workspace. Next thing, go and create a project. File, new soap project. Now you would come back and say, what is this soap and what is this shampoo and what is this, I mean, what are these things? Soap is not the soap you use for, washing yourself, right? Soap means something. Simple, object, access, protocol. Now you are like, wow, how did you know that? I would say, I learned about it. Well, that's what it is. Simple object access protocol. We'll be talking about it. You will be whistling about SOAP in the next class, because we'll be talking about SOAP protocol. We'll be talking about envelopes. We'll be talking. So you would be fine. You would be dandy this Thursday. But as of now, new SOAP project is what we have to take. And we took that. And now it is asking you for the name, project name. Well, we call it as ePay system testing, right? Okay, now see this initial WSDL, So it is asking you, hey, my friend, where is the initial WSDL? So more on that in the next class, but here is the location. Here is the location. So if I have to show you what it is, this is what is the address. So this is the name of the server, right? TrainingRite.net. This is the folder where I have this ePay system web service. This is the WSDL for that. So you take this, and then you come and you paste it here. You paste it here. After you paste it, I don't have time to cover these things, and we're going to be starting off here in the next class. So you just hit OK. Now, because it's going to go very fast because I have this very fast machine, so it won't give you enough time to look into it. But keep an eye here what happens here when I do this, right? All eyes there, right? Okay, so as you can see, whoa, you're like, what happened here, right? Okay, nothing to worry about. Let me collapse it. Let me collapse it. Let me collapse it. And now you're not too overwhelmed because this part, you know, what is this? You say, this is the workspace. And let's say if you don't know what that is, very quickly do this, right? Highlight that and look here. This will tell you what that is, right? So if you don't know what that is, for that matter, if you don't know, let's say if you don't know what this is, what would you do? You click on that and watch in the bottom. So that's nothing but it's a project. So this ePay system we just created is a project. If you see the plus sign, expand it. So there are two green eyes, I as in India, right? Not I as in India, I as an interface. Interface. I as an interface, right? So green eye, green eye. Now you would say that why do you have this eye and this eye, right? We'll come to it in the next class why you have these two, right? If you kind of like getting a little curious, like everything he's saying, next class, don't worry. If you are a registered member, after you finish, go have your, if you already had your dinner, go have a drink or something, you know, and watch the videos. If you can't watch it late, it's too late right now, you can watch it tomorrow, but watch the videos and you'll get to know what these things are. But anyways, so if you see here, this is a workspace, this is a project. Inside a project, you have an interface. So now, when it comes to SoapUI, this hierarchy is important. What is the hierarchy? What's the hierarchy here? Hierarchy is me, my son, then me, then my father, then my grandfather. So that's the tree, right? So if you start right from the top, from my great-great-great-grandfather, in SoapUI, the topmost guy is what? Workspace. Inside a workspace is what? A project. Inside a project is what? A interface. Inside the interface is what? Operations. 1, 2, 3, 4, many operations, right? Now, I'm going to take you to one of the operations called sale, right? Inside sale, I have this request. Now, I am going to double click it, and you would see something on the right-hand side. You are like, whoa, what is this? And you would say, it kind of like makes something, this is angle, this angle, this, so it looks like XML. Wow, surprise. It is XML. So what you see here is it is an XML. So this web service that we are going to test, it is an XML-based web service. It's an XML web service. So can there be any other web services other than XML web service? Absolutely. Right? We'll come to it. Those are called REST web services. We'll be doing a lot of that stuff. This is just the first class. As we progress in this course, we'll be learning about it. So this is an XML web service. Now, let's take a look into it. Let me just clear it. And bear with me. We are almost done. Another 2 minutes and we are done. Okay. I'll show you how we should be testing it. Now, this is, you understand this, that this is XML, right? Other than that, you don't understand anything. right? What if I tell you that you will be a master of this in the next class? You should believe me, and I want you to believe it, right? Okay, I'm gonna take a shortcut and I'm gonna show you a little trick in here. And the trick is here, if you close this, right, expand and expand that, and if you close and expand, right, so you find inside it, if you close and expand, right, so if you see, I have what is called an envelope, right? So in an envelope, if you don't open an envelope, do you know what is inside that envelope? It could be a check, it could be a bill, it could be like a ticket, it could be like the judge sending you like a notice of eviction, it could anything, right? Same deal. If you open it, now you have to look inside the body of this, inside the body of it. And inside the body of it is an operation called sale operation, and I will go into a lot of details in the next class. And these are the things that we have to, these are the parameters that we have to pass. So this sale, to make a sale in the credit card, I have to pass this, I have to pass that, I have to pass that, I have to pass that. And if it is starting to make a little sense to you now, it is asking for this question mark, means that it is asking you, right? What? That's what it is. Question mark is what? What is the credit card number? So let's say if I put the credit card number, some credit card number, I put it. What is the expiration date? Expiration date, I cannot put like 1000, right? It's a month. I cannot put 100, right? It has to be, so the meaningful data is, let's say that. What is the year? It is ending in, now because it said 2-digit, I'm going to go with 2-digit, let's say 19. What is the amount? And the amount, let's say, is $399 I want to charge you. This is your MasterCard that you gave me. This is the number, month, and this. I want to send this request, process this request, ePay system. And when I do that, right, it will come back and say, yeah, I charge you, or I can't charge you, this is a bad card or something. So let's see, if you get something back, that means that is the response of a web service. For a web service to work, you have to send a request. See that request? We are sending a request. Now I click on this green button, right? Lo and behold, we have a value here. The value is, sorry, this transaction was not approved. Maybe it's a stolen card, maybe it's a wrong number, maybe it's too much of money, he doesn't have that. Who knows what the story is? But at least we got some response, right? Now let me just change the number here. Let me go with for this, not plus, right? That, and send it again, right? This time the transaction was approved. Right? Now, was this card charged or not? That's a different story. We'll come to it, right? But you see a request going and a response coming back. A request going and a response coming back. Every time you are sending different data, and it could behave differently depending on that. So this is nothing but your web service testing. So now, after continuously talking for 2 hours and 10 minutes, I will pause here, I will stop here, and I will thank you all for being here for a little over 2 hours. And I have to make an announcement, and the announcement is all of you, whoever is here, right, if you have already paid, for this course, even if you have paid for the course, I want you to write an email to us that I am a registered student. I want to attend this class, and only to those people we will send the link for the next Thursday class, right? For those of you who did not and who think that this is something that you want to do, then go to trainingrite.com, go to this pricing and discount packages, right? And click on this, not hover, but click on it. After you click on it, it will show you pricing and discount. Scroll down till you find here there are 6 courses, 2 courses, single, So you come in here to online SoapUI, you click on that, right? You make the payment, and as soon as you make the payment, we will register you. This is $3.99 you're paying, and once you make the payment, we will register you, and then we will send you the videos, and we will send you the invitation to come to the class. Now, a lot of you guys probably are already registered. You have to send an email to this address, TrainingRite at gmail.com is fine, this address, or you can send it to trainingrite@gmail.com, right? So that's the address, or you can send it to sales@trainingrite.com. So the email address is here. The email address is here, sales@trainingrite.com. So if you are already registered, you will send an email there, and then we will send you the invitation. Now, if you don't receive the invitation by 2 o'clock on Thursday, if you are a registered student, you don't get the invitation by 2 o'clock on Thursday, that means that there is something wrong. So you can call us. You can call us, right? Because by Thursday, 2 o'clock, you should be receiving. So that means that if you are a registered student, you must write us back immediately after I end this session. Write me back at sales@trainingrite.com or trainingrite@gmail.com, and then we will send you the link. For those of you who are thinking, who are sitting on the edge, still deciding whether to go for it or not, well, I think after we did today's session, it is totally up to you. You have seen what we would be covering and how we do this, and the rest of the sessions are not going to be anything different, meaning that I will put more than 100% from my side to teach you, and I will teach you. I will not, let you just come in and then attend this just for the sake of attending. You will learn some stuff at the end of this course, and you will be ready for the interviews, and you'll be ready for testing web services. That is my promise from my side. All right. If you have any questions, I will take your questions right now. For those of you folks who don't have any questions, the session is over. I'm not going to be covering anything new. I hope to see you back on Thursday, and it's a little late in the evening right now. If you have to, get out, thank you for being here. Appreciate. And for the rest of you folks, whoever have any question, I am here. I will talk to you. But the no more technical stuff we covered. Service-oriented architecture, we will be covering it. The whole thing we have to be covering that. We'll be spending a lot of time on that. Yeah, you're welcome, Mary. You're welcome, Zara. You're welcome, and the rest of you folks, whoever have any questions, stay here. Otherwise, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, today being day one, I will hold the questions because I'll send it to those folks who are registered. I'll send you the interview questions to you, right? It's a service-oriented architecture is cannot be taught in 2 minutes. It is a 2-hour class, and that's what we will be doing in the upcoming classes, Karishma. So if you have the videos, you can watch the videos. It just cannot be done in 2-3 minutes. It is a huge topic. Huge topic. I just cannot justify doing that in a couple of minutes. All right. Okay. So we will call it a day, and we'll see you guys on Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take good care of yourself, and thank you for being here. Have a good night.